right, so you found the house, you wrote a strong offer, you went $10,000 over asking, you waived the remedy period, and you still lost to an offer that actually came in lower than yours. So I'm going to tell you exactly why this happened, and more importantly, I'm going to show you how to make sure it never happens to you again. So here's the thing that most buyers don't know, and what most lenders will never tell you. The listing agent is not just evaluating price, they're evaluating risk. And if you don't understand what risk means to them, you are competing on the wrong thing entirely. So in this video, I'm going to show you 4 things. 1, the 2-factor equation every listing agent is actually running when they're reviewing your offer compared to the others. 2, how to best position your financing so your offer looks like the lowest risk deal in the pile, not just the highest number. And then 3, a move that your lender can actually make that almost no buyer ever thinks to ask for, and it works almost every single time. And then the last one, 4th, the tactical tools that help support it all. Let's get into it. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Ryan Miracle. I'm a senior loan officer here at Ruoff Mortgage in Columbus, Ohio. I am one half of the Stewards team, and I've been doing this for about 19 years, and I've closed almost 3,700 home loans in this market and any other type of market that we've been in for the last 20 years. So I want to be clear about something up front. This is not a real estate agent video. I'm not going to tell you how to write a letter to the seller to close in 14 days. That's not my lane, and that's not my chore. So what I can tell you is about what happens on the lender side of things, the phone calls, the conversations, the part of the process that most buyers never get to see. Because when a listing agent is sitting down to choose between 5 different offers, there is a 30-second phone call that happens that determines whether you get the keys or you get another rejection letter. And most buyers have no idea that this call even is happening or should happen. And I'm going to pull the curtain back on all of it. And because I've seen both sides of those verification calls as the lender being asked and as the person coaching buyers through what to do next. So what I'm going to show you is different from every other bidding war video that you've ever watched. And it's not real estate agent advice. This is the lender side intelligence, and it changes the whole picture for you and actually getting the house that you want. So the first thing you need to understand are the 2 things that the listing agent is actually weighing. So the listing agent has a fiduciary obligation to their seller. Get them the most money with the fewest complications. That's it. And what most buyers hear is get them the most money, and that's where they focus. Price, 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 price. And there's a second half of that equation that is just as important, which is giving the seller the fewest complications as possible. And here's what this means in real terms. So if you have been in multiple offer situations and lost, even with the strongest number, there's a chance that the listing agent looked at your financials and decided the risk wasn't worth it. Not that your price wasn't wrong, that your deal looked like it might not close. In Central Ohio this year, finance buyers have lost to lower offers on competing properties because the listing agent just didn't trust the financing. Not because the price is wrong, it's the thing that no one's telling you. So take a second and put yourself in the seller's shoes. I want you to think about what a failed transaction actually costs the seller. The median home price in Columbus right now is about $301, up about 7% from this time last year. So when a deal falls apart, the seller goes back on the market. They relist, they lose days, they lose momentum, and in most cases, they lose the house that they were buying on the other side of the transaction. So I actually had a client on the other side of one of those situations, a seller whose buyer's finance collapsed 11 days before closing. They had already given their notice to their apartment, they were back on the market re-explaining to the next buyer why the deal fell through, and hoping the story doesn't scare off the next offer. A deal that collapses is not a paperwork inconvenience, it is a real thing that happens to real families. So when a listing agent is reviewing 5 offers, they are running the scenario a 2-factor calculation. Factor 1, the most money. They want to get their seller the most money possible. Now, factor 2, the most likely to reach the closing table. So here's how this changes everything for you as the finance buyer. A higher offer from a shaky buyer is not always better than a clean offer from a certain buyer. Now, I've seen listing agents recommend a lower offer to their client, not because they like the buyers better, but because the probability of that deal making it to the finish line was materially higher. It's not just theory, that has happened on files that I've worked on. So we've actually won offers that were lower, but they were stronger. I want you to hear that again. So you can actually get a house with a lower offer and beat out people who are offering more than you. So the question isn't just, how do I offer more? The question is, how do I look like the most certain buyer in the pile? So that's what the next 3 sections that we're going to cover are all about. So here's how you look like a certain buyer. 3 moves. Most buyers don't even know any of them. So move number 1, get fully underwritten before you write your first offer. There's a meaningful difference between a pre-approved letter and a fully underwritten approval. And it's not just a small difference. It's the difference between a lender saying, I looked at your application and it seems fine, and a lender saying an underwriter has reviewed your income documents, your assets, your employment, your credit, and this loan is conditionally approved pending only getting in a contract on 123 Main Street. So think of it this way, a pre-approval is a save the date card for a wedding. It means that someone thinks the wedding is probably going to happen. A fully underwritten approval is the signed marriage license. So the commitment is real, the paperwork has been reviewed, and there are very few things left that can make this thing fall apart. So when you submit an offer with a fully underwritten approval behind it, the listing agent is actually calling to verify your financing and is not hearing, we ran your credit check and the numbers looked okay. They are hearing, this file has been through underwriting and I know what the conditions are and I know this buyer can perform, which is a completely different conversation, and it matters. So move number 2, ask the listing agent what the seller is actually wanting. So this one is simple and almost no one does it. Before you write an offer, have your buyer's agent call the listing agent and ask one question. What does your seller need to feel good about this deal? Sometimes the answer is money. Sometimes it's about a specific closing date because they are buying something else. Sometimes it's a rent back. The ability to stay in the home for 30 days after closing while their next home finalizes. Sometimes it's just certainty. The seller, and at the very least, the listing agent has been burned before, so they need to know that this deal is going to close. When you know what the seller actually wants, you can structure an offer that speaks directly to them and immediately separate yourself from every other buyer who just submitted a number without asking. Move 3, have your lender call the listing agent and make sure the lender actually will pick up the phone. I want to show you what this actually sounds like when one of my buyers is in a multiple offer situation. So I pick up the phone and the call goes something like this. Hey, this is Ryan with Ruoff Mortgage. I'm the lender on Joe Smith's offer that you just received. And I want to reach out to you personally. Now, this file's already been through underwriting already, and I reviewed the income, reviewed their assets, reviewed their employment history, and their approval is solid. So if you have any questions about the strength of this file, I want you to be able to call me directly. So here's my number, blah, 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 blah. So that call takes about 45 seconds, and it does something that no offer letter can actually replicate. It puts a real person behind the transaction. It signals that if anything comes up between contract and closing, there's actually a lender here locally that's already inside of the file and will pick up the phone on the Saturday when the listing agent or the seller has a question. So I want to ask you something. If you got a pre-approval from an online lender, the kind where you just click a button at midnight and get a letter in your email, is that lender really going to make the call? Do you even know who the lender is? Do you know what they sound like? Is there even a person to call? In a competitive situation, that distinction matters more than most buyers could ever understand. Now, before I get into the tactical tools, I want to tell you about a specific situation that happened earlier this year. I had a buyer, a young couple, first home, Columbus suburb. They were up against 4 offers, including 1 cash offer. The number was not the highest in the pile, but we had done the full underwrite like I just talked about. I called the listing agent like I just talked about before the deadline, and I asked what the seller needed. Turns out the seller was going through a divorce and needed a specific close date that aligned with their court filing. No one else had bothered to ask. We structured the offer around that date. They got the house. My buyer got the house. The cash offer lost. Now, I want you to hear that not as a marketing story, but as proof that the frame that I've been laying out in this video so far works in real time in this market. So here are some of the tactical tools that support certainty. So once your financing is positioned correctly, there are 3 tools that can add weight to your offer, but I want to be direct. None of these work the way that they should if your underlying financing isn't solid. These are multipliers, not substitutes. So the first tool is appraisal gap coverage and what it actually signals. So an appraisal gap comes up when your offer price is higher than what the home appraises for. So say your offer is $315 on a 301 listing and the home appraises for $300. That is a $15,000 appraisal gap from what you offered to what the house actually appraised for. So most buyers think appraisal gap coverage is just about bringing extra money to the table. That's part of it. But what actually it signals to the seller is the buyer is committed enough to close that they are willing to cover the difference if the number comes in short from the appraisal to the purchase price. It buys the seller's peace of mind, and it tells them that the deal isn't dying over an appraisal number. So in the Columbus market right now, with homes selling at about 98.5% of the asking price and inventory at just 2.7 months of supply, competitive pricing and appraisal gap coverage together are a real signal of intent, not just interest. The second tool is an escalation clause, and why they only matter if your financing is trusted. So an escalation clause basically says, I will pay $1,000 more than your highest offer up to a ceiling of blah. And it keeps you at the top of the pile without requiring you to guess what everyone else is doing. But here's the thing that most people miss. An escalation clause from a buyer the listing agent doesn't trust is just noise. If your lender is unknown, your pre-approval letter is thin, and no one is able to call to vouch for the quality of your home loan, an escalation clause just means that you're escalating your exposure on a real deal that costs real money that might not close anyway. So the escalation clause gets its power from the credibility behind it. So you have to build the credibility first. The third and final tool is the contingency structure, how to stay protected without looking shaky. So waiving inspections entirely is a risky move most buyers shouldn't take, but there's a middle path. A pass-fail inspection says, I'll do an inspection, but I'm only walking away if something catastrophic comes back. I'm not going to negotiate every minor repair. That signals a commitment that you want to keep the deal going and you want to protect yourself as well. So similarly, tightening your closing timeline, if your financing is already in underwriting and your appraisal can be ordered quickly, that tells the seller that the deal is going to have some wheels on it and is going to close quickly. That speed is a form of certainty. So here's the thing. I know I talk fast and I know we've covered a lot, but the people who are winning bidding wars in Columbus right now are not the ones with the most money. They're the ones whose financing is the least risky. The ones whose lender has already done the work. The one who took the time to understand what the seller actually needed before they submitted an offer. So most buyers show up in a multiple offer situation hoping that their number is high enough. The buyers who win show up with the file that's already done, the lender already talking to the listing agent, and the offer is already structured around what the seller is looking for. The buyers who win in this market aren't smarter than everyone else. They just know what the listing agent is actually evaluating, and they show up prepared for that conversation. You now know what all of this entails to get your offer accepted. Most people are going into their next offer and they're still going to go at this blind, but you're smarter than that. So if you're in a competitive situation right now, or you know one is coming, the next step is making sure your financing is positioned to compete. And that's what we do differently here on the Stewards. We justify everything that we just told you is by our numbers. We have an 81% offer acceptance rate. So if you want this kind of certainty for your next offer, what I want you to do is scan this QR code and reach out to us directly. You can also find this in the description below. So there is no cost, no pressure. We look at where you are, what your file looks like, and what it's actually going to take to put you in the strongest position possible to write your next offer. Before you go, one question for the comments, if you could do me a favor and just engage below. When you were in multiple offer situations the last time, did your lender pick up the phone and call the listing agent? Or did you never hear from them until the offer was already lost? So I want to know, because the answer still tells me everything about what buyers are actually experiencing out there right now. Talk to you soon.